In this video, we're going to be talking about the damage that overstaying in a relationship can bring, especially if it's a toxic relationship. Hello y'all, welcome back to another video dedicated to help you break out of the cycle of toxic behaviors and relationships in your personal and romantic area of your life. Now, if you're not sure if you're in a toxic relationship or not and you feel stuck and you're wondering whether or not you should break up, you should watch my video here. You could go over a lot of questions that I go over with my clients together to help them gain more clarity on where they're at. But with that said, if you've already decided that maybe this isn't the relationship for you, you're feeling stuck, you're feeling exhausted, you're stuck in that cycle of emotional burnout, seeing the same problems happen over and over again, but nothing getting resolved. But for some reason, you can't leave the relationship. You're stuck. You're in a trauma bond. And as someone who's been in a toxic relationship before, I get it. I've been there. It's tough. It's easier said than done. But you may want to consider the damage that is happening when you're prolonging your stay in a toxic relationship. Because you may think it's fine. It's not a big deal. I'm going to stay for a little longer. I'm going to try to work it out. But a lot of people don't realize that it not only affects your mental health, but also your physical health. But let's get into it. Number one, the biggest thing that happens when you prolong your stay in an unhealthy relationship is that you start creating this perception around yourself that you do not deserve love. You are unworthy of healthy love, and this is what you should accept. Especially when you've been emotionally and verbally abused over and over again, you start to believe that this may be true. The thing is, these are not your thoughts, these are not your beliefs, but because you've been in this situation over and over again, that is what your brain starts believing. Not only that, but even worse, you start questioning your own perception and judgment to discern whether or not this is a good situation for you. You see, because when you choose to stay in this situation that you know is not good for you, you start questioning yourself and wondering why you allowed yourself to stay for the longest time. You start feeling guilt and shame of not being able to leave sooner. And of course, one thing that I always tell my clients is that it's not your fault. It's easier said than done, and a lot of times you can't just leave because you're either stuck in a trauma bond or there are financial or emotional or physical restrictions. This doesn't mean that you shouldn't do everything that you can to get unstuck. Number two, you start to lose your identity in the relationship. Now, this is particularly for my fearful and anxious attachment styles because one of the biggest reasons that prevents y'all from leaving the relationship in the first place is that fear of abandonment wound. And so what this wound looks like is because you're afraid of being alone, because you're afraid of not getting those needs met of closeness and intimacy, you decide to stay and settle because you think that it's good enough. But what ends up happening is that in the process of trying to save them, save the relationship, make things work, you start losing yourself because you are no longer pouring and investing energy into yourself as you could have in a healthy relationship. And so your mind becomes fixated on them. They're living in your mind rent-free 24/7, and you start losing a part of yourself. You don't live your life for you. You live your life for them and trying to resolve these problems that you're having on a day-to-day basis, crying your eyes out, wondering why you're not good enough. And I'm not saying all these things to make you feel bad. I'm saying this because it is the reality of the situation and we don't want to sugarcoat it. Because the more we try to sugarcoat things is the reason why we try to justify and allow ourselves to stay in these unhealthy relationships. Number three, moving on to the physical symptoms, you may start to feel chronic stress and anxiety. And because of this chronic stress and anxiety, what you'll start to notice is that you're constantly fatigued, you're losing weight, you're gaining weight, your hormones are imbalanced, there's tension in your neck, in your back, in your head, you're getting migraine. The thing that people don't realize is that your body keeps score, which means that all the trauma that has happened to you, everything that you've endured is kept in your body and stored there if you don't allow yourself to release it. If you're not allowing yourself to actually process and heal some of these emotions and everything that you're going through, it will stay stuck in your body and be stored there because you're repressing it. You're trying to pretend that it's not happening and it's not going anywhere. That will inevitably lead to some of these physical symptoms that I just described. So you want to make sure that you are also being mindful of how your mind can affect your physical body and surrounding yourself in an environment where you are able to thrive and grow instead of dim your light and constantly feel stuck. Number four, isolation. One thing that often happens in toxic relationships is that you become isolated from your dearest friends, family, because your energy is so focused on your partner. And also sometimes in manipulative and toxic relationships, your partner keeps you intentionally isolated to themselves. And because you feel this isolation and you feel so lonely, you feel like there is no one else to turn to but your partner. And so you stay due to the fact, again, of that fear of abandonment. And so if you're feeling stuck right now and you are looking for support and love, make sure that you don't hesitate to reach out. I have an amazing Facebook community of all people trying to heal from their toxic relationships and grow together to become more secure. I also offer group coaching for women who are looking to break out of the cycle of toxic relationships. So if you're interested in having that support system and having that group and community, then click the link in the description to book a call with me to see if you're a good fit. Number 5, toxic behaviors and patterns that get carried over into your new relationship. You see, what happens in a toxic relationship is that you get used to seeing unhealthy behaviors and patterns all the time. It becomes a norm to constantly question your partner. It becomes a norm to constantly feel like you have to update them, otherwise they're gonna get jealous or blow up. It becomes a norm that you're constantly walking around eggshells in the relationship, too scared to say the wrong thing. And when this becomes a norm in your relationship, you inevitably carry these same wounds and unhealthy behaviors into your new relationship, thinking that this is what love is supposed to look like. It's supposed to look like jealousy. It's supposed to look like jealousy, control, and fights over and over again, because that's just them being protective. And until you start healing and learning to be on your own and break that cycle of toxic relationship, you will find yourself dating the same person just in a different body over and over again. And your last note, when you prolong your suffering in an unhealthy relationship, what ends up happening is that you miss the opportunities that are there for you because you are so focused on the suffering that is in front of you. And I get it. You're probably thinking, well, it wasn't all bad. It wasn't all suffering. There were good times. When it was good, it was really good. And if you're wondering how I know this, I said the same thing to myself. But we have to realize that when we are telling ourselves these things to justify why we should stay in these unhealthy relationships, we are just prolonging our suffering and preventing opportunities, things, people that are for us to be with us. It's the same concept of if you have so many things in your hand already and you're carrying so much, you have no space or energy or attention to focus on anything else except what you're carrying. And when that happens, when good things happen in your life, you don't even recognize it. You can't even have the capacity to accept it because of what you are holding on to so far. And so sometimes in order to accept and allow great things to happen in your life, you need to let go of things that are not for you. There is only so much that we can carry, and it's important to be intentional about where we put our energy to. But with that said, I hope this helped. Comment down below where you feel like you are in your relationship right now. Of course, if you're looking for more in-depth guidance, you can book a call with me, link in the description. Like and subscribe and follow for more. As always, you got this.